Why Am I So Different? By Catherine Plink of The Entrance, 2261. Narrated by Janine Penfold. Why do you do things differently from the way we do? You should behave and think like us. That was the mantra of my childhood. To tell you the absolute truth, I still have only a suspicion of the answer. When I was very small, still in a cot, I did not follow the correct sleep patterns of normal babies and toddlers. According to my mother, I spent most of my nights sitting up in bed talking to myself. Apparently, she did try to get me to go to sleep like other good children, but as I was an otherwise happy and healthy child, she gave up the unequal struggle and let me do my own thing. She probably should have warned my godmother when she visited and had to sleep in the spare bed in my room, but even then, Aunt Betty told Mother it was cute and didn't seem to mind the disturbed night. Shortly before I turned 3, my parents split up. That meant that a good deal of my early years were spent moving around from place to place, while my mother took live-in housekeeping jobs. Was I traumatised by this? No, I wasn't. As long as I had my mother and my sister, I was happy and confident. When my sister was at school and Mother was busy, I was left to my own devices for long periods. I filled in the time by finding a comfortable spot, like an old wheelbarrow, and telling myself stories for hours at a time. Despite a long-standing fear of animals, something that stayed with me in some form until my marriage, I also loved spending time on the various farms belonging to family or friends. Somehow the lifestyle seemed to suit me. My father's friend had 3 girls close in age to us, and it was amazing the mischief the 5 of us managed to get into. There was a sense of freedom there that wasn't found in town life. I was 8 the last time I was there, and things had already changed for me. I have always believed that it was the trauma of suddenly finding that my sister and I were placed in a children's home which caused the problems I faced from that time on. Our mother had become ill, and this step was recommended by her doctor. She believed that she would be able to get us back as soon as she was well again. The Anglican Homes Board had other ideas, and it took an agonising 5.5 years until we were allowed to go home. I think now that I was already different, but the differences were accepted by my family and schoolmates. But they were not, at least not by my schoolmates anyway. Now I was a home brat and different, totally unacceptable. That changed my perspective of myself and altered some of my behaviours. From being a top student and teacher's pet, I went to being a student who daydreamed most of the time and never completed the work. I couldn't concentrate for more than a few minutes at a time, and in the end, I gave up on myself. I became increasingly inclined to furious, uncontrolled rages over small matters. I still struggle with those urges to this day. After we went back to live with Mother, these rages spoiled my relationship with both her and my sister. Luckily, that relationship was repaired in my mother's later years, and we had some wonderful times together during my visits to her. I also have a great relationship with my sister, as long as we don't spend too much time together, because our differences can sometimes cause friction. Did I mention she was as different as I am, but not in the same way? At school, I only had a handful of friends, all of whom were slightly outside the normal run of the others in our class. They weren't interested in the things I didn't care a hoot and a holler about. They accepted me, warts and all, despite my oddity. For the rest, it was always the constant effort to make myself into a clone of them. The fact that what they were was something I despised never seemed to occur to them. My difficulties with learning increased as the schoolwork increased over the years, and I failed my exams miserably. After school, I failed at nursing. was not a great success during my time in the Women's Royal New Zealand Air Force, and topped the lot by being taken in by a man with a silver tongue and a habit of seducing vulnerable women. The resulting pregnancy and birth almost killed both me and the child. But we survived, and I had him adopted. I knew I was in no way mature enough to give him the life he deserved. That was the one decision I made, although I regretted it for years, that was best for all concerned. He had a great childhood and met and married a wonderful woman. I recently attended their youngest son's wedding and met my 3 great grandchildren. During my adult life, I have struggled in many ways, but finally I have managed to accept the difference in me and embrace it. My own mantra has become, I am who I am. Take me as you find me, or leave me alone, for I will not change to suit you. I have found people who not only accept me for who I am, but have never once tried to change that. So, the question of what made me is found in the fact that I believe I am on the spectrum, as the common parlance has it. Does believing that change anything? No, it doesn't. The end.